him up, and now he's got a relationship with the Lord, and he's got, he's married, and he's trying to be a normal person.
Yeah.
But he's struggling with the fact that he was insanely famous when he was a kid.
Joe Rogan has never been known for holding back, but his latest podcast episode revealed a side of him that fans don't often see: sadness. This wasn't the usual mix of humor and tough commentary. Instead, it was a heavy, reflective conversation about what really happened to Justin Bieber when he was just 15 years old and in the care of music mogul Diddy.
I've seen the movie 48 Hours. Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream.
Joe didn't raise his voice or make jokes. He spoke slowly, sometimes pausing for long moments as he tried to process the details that had recently come to light. The episode began with Rogan quietly flipping through a stack of papers on his desk. "This one's hard," he admitted, looking down at the notes. "We're talking about a kid who got caught in something that never should have happened." He explained that he had been sent documents, timelines, and video clips that told a troubling story about Bieber's early years in the spotlight. The more he read, the harder it was for him to shake the feeling that the industry had failed to protect him. Joe started with a resurfaced interview clip.
So Diddy bought his son a Bentley. Maybe, he could buy you one also while you're out.
He got me a Lamborghini.
Oh, well, that's nice.
I haven't gotten it yet, though.
Yeah, I know. When is that coming, that Lamborghini? We talked about this last time.
He had the Lamborghini for a day or two, and he had access to the house.
Featuring Diddy. In the video, Diddy smiles as he recalls spending 48 hours with a 15-year-old Bieber, calling it a dream for a teenager. But when asked for details, Diddy avoids the question, saying only that it's undisclosed. Watching this in 2025, Rogan shook his head. "That's not mentorship," he said softly. When an adult talks like that about a kid and refuses to explain, that's a red flag. The worst part is this was on camera for everyone to see, and still no one stepped in. The sadness deepened as Joe walked listeners through the timeline of events.
Now, when you're a little kid and you become famous, and you're the one calling the shots, you realize all these people you're responsible for their income.
Yeah, your brain's still developing, and you have everybody saying yes around you. Yeah,
his brain is still developing now. Your frontal lobe isn't even fully formed until you're 25.
Bieber, who had been mentored by Usher, somehow ended up spending extended time under Diddy's watch. This wasn't arranged through official legal channels, but rather through an informal handoff. There was no paperwork, no oversight, Joe said. How does that happen to someone who's already one of the biggest stars on the planet? His tone carried more disappointment than outrage. Disappointment at the people who should have known better.
I don't know how many people came out of the fame as a young person and were fine. But the people that stay and keep doing it, they're not fine. Most of them. Maybe there's a few.
Among the evidence Joe had were handwritten notes reportedly from Bieber himself. One note in particular made Rogan stop speaking for several seconds. In messy handwriting, Bieber had written about, "Please let me sleep. I can't go again." Joe put the note down, sighed, and said, "That's a kid asking for rest. That's a kid who's overwhelmed. This is not the picture of a happy young artist living his dream. This is a young person just trying to make it through the day." Joe went on to describe what were called immersion weekends, during which Bieber's phone was taken away, calls to the outside world were limited, and rehearsals went late into the night. "That's not healthy," he said. "That's not giving a teenager a chance to grow, to learn, to enjoy his success. That's taking away his normal life and replacing it with constant pressure." His voice wavered as he imagined the isolation Bieber must have felt. Then Rogan turned to a therapist's report filed when Bieber was 16. The document described him as emotionally distant, overstressed, and anxious. It used terms like loss of personal control and fear of disappointing authority figures. Rogan read the words slowly, almost reluctantly, before pausing. "This kid was carrying the weight of an empire," he said quietly. "He was a teenager, and he was under constant watch. How is that okay?" One of the most powerful moments came when Joe described security footage from that time. The grainy video showed Bieber walking down a hallway at 3 a.m., guitar in hand, flanked by 2 adults. His expression was blank, tired. Behind him, a whiteboard listed the rules for the weekend.
I don't know how many people came out of the fame as a young person and were fine, but the people that stay and keep doing it, they're not fine. Most of them. I mean, maybe there's a few. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible to do, but I'm saying the challenge of becoming a normal person with like a normal view of the world when, you know, you're getting doted on when you're 6 and you're the moneymaker in the house. When you're a little kid, like your parents stop working to manage you. You know, Justin Bieber had a post the other day on his Instagram talking about all the drugs that he did when he was younger and how much it f***ed him up. And now he's got a relationship with the Lord and he's got, you know, he's married and he's trying to be a normal person.
Yeah.
But he's struggling with the fact that he was insanely famous when he was a kid. And then there's also like people that are elites. And that's their thing. Like their thing is to do something that is horrible, and you know, it's not available to other people. So it's like, I think there's like a sickness that people have when they have power, like extreme power, and then what else can I do? What else can I do? What else is what else is taboo? What else is forbidden? You know,
5-minute phone limit, no outside calls, vocal drills all day. Rogan looked down after reading the list. That's not how you treat a young artist. That's how you wear one down. By this point, Rogan's sadness had shifted into a deeper frustration. He talked about how Bieber has opened up in recent years about his struggles with anxiety, burnout, and rediscovering who he is outside of fame. When you put this all together, it makes sense, Joe said. He wasn't just battling the pressures of fame, he was battling a system that didn't give him room to breathe. The reaction to the podcast was immediate. Fans flooded social media with support for Bieber and anger toward Diddy. Within hours, some companies began distancing themselves from Diddy-related projects. A clothing brand paused a campaign, and a streaming service began reviewing older content. But for Rogan, the episode wasn't about corporate moves or headlines. It was about the human cost. Joe closed the episode with a pledge to donate all proceeds from it to youth mental health programs and advocacy groups for young artists. He leaned forward and spoke directly to the camera. If you saw this happening and you stayed silent, you're part of the problem. We can't keep pretending this is normal. Fame should lift people up, not lock them in. His voice cracked slightly as he added, "The industry failed Justin. Let's make sure it doesn't fail the next kid." As the lights dimmed and the podcast ended, the mood was heavy. Viewers didn't just walk away with a new story, they walked away with a new perspective on how easily power can overshadow protection and how important it is to speak up before it's too late. For Joe Rogan, this wasn't just another topic, it was a reminder that behind the headlines and hit songs, there's a person whose voice can be drowned out by the noise of fame, unless someone chooses to listen.
And then you have them come to audition for you, right?
Actually, there were a few people. My wife at the time.
Right.
It also was Perry Reed, L.A. Reid's first wife.
You were all sitting in a room somewhere.
We were in a room.
Yeah.
And I showed her the video. And Perry says, "Are you crazy? You better get down there and meet this kid right now. He's amazing."
When all these dick pics come out and all this stuff with Bieber's big penis, are you the mastermind behind that? Say, listen, show off your big penis and people will come to those concerts. Or are you sitting there?
Is that the kind of managing he's doing?
Usher, are you sitting down with him and saying, "Yeah, show your," or leave it in your pants? I mean, do you sit him down and say, "Look, part of this is PR,
Hey,
man."
by the way, he does have a brain of his own.
Yeah, but were you shocked at the size of his penis?
Hey, listen, he has a mind of his own. What he chose to do with his penis is his prerogative. He's managing that aspect of his life.
But Usher, is somebody...
I have nothing to do with Justin Bieber's private parts, man.
When the cameras finally went dark after that episode, the studio didn't erupt into chatter the way it usually did. The crew sat quietly, unsure what to say. Joe Rogan had ended the broadcast with his head down, his voice breaking, the frame note from Bieber still resting on the table. The silence wasn't awkward, it was heavy, as if everyone in the room felt the same weight he did. Joe got up slowly, shook his head, and muttered, "That kid never stood a chance." The raw emotion stunned his audience too. Millions who tuned in expected anger, maybe even a rant. What they saw instead was sadness. The kind of sadness that lingers long after the episode ends. Clips of Joe's trembling voice and watery eyes spread across social media with captions like, "I've never seen him like this," and "This hits different." The comment sections weren't filled with debates or arguments this time. They were filled with fans admitting they cried watching it.
So many horrific accusations, though, involving young singers, children.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's insane.
He makes R. Kelly look like a decent guy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
It is crazy. And meanwhile, the guy was like hanging out with Oprah, hanging out with Obama.
Jay-Z,
Everybody.
I'm sure the Clintons were there at some point.
Maybe Bill.
For many, the moment reframed the entire story. Outrage over Diddy's actions was already brewing, but seeing Rogan visibly hurt shifted the conversation from scandal to tragedy. The focus wasn't just on exposing Diddy anymore, it was on empathizing with Bieber as a child who had been thrown into a machine that cared more about money than humanity. Rogan's sadness had humanized the story in a way statistics, documents, and even shocking footage never could. Parents wrote to Joe in droves. Some thanked him for saying what they wish someone had said when their own kids were chasing stardom in Hollywood or on talent shows. Others admitted they felt guilty for idolizing the industry without questioning the toll it took on young performers. "When I saw you break down," one mother wrote, "it felt like the whole world finally stopped pretending it was okay to treat kids like this."
What's up, man? You good?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, young brother, everything's good?
Everything's
Selling
great.
out arenas and everything?
Yeah,
Starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, I mean, you tried to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But you never really got my number, so.
Right, okay.
My number?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you my number.
Yeah.
It's 555.
Yes. Okay.
5555.
Okay. 55. You heard that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Other celebrities noticed too. A well-known actor who had once been a child star posted a heartfelt video explaining that Joe's sadness brought back memories of nights when they felt alone and trapped under expectations. "I thought I was the only one who carried that weight," the actor admitted, "but Joe made me realize that people saw it, people cared, they just didn't speak up soon enough." Meanwhile, Diddy's silence grew louder by the day. His refusal to address Rogan's revelations, paired with the heartbreaking imagery of Bieber's exhaustion, made him look cold and indifferent. While Joe sat in his studio openly mourning the boy Bieber once was, Diddy's public image hardened into that of a man with no empathy, no acknowledgement, no remorse. It wasn't just an expose anymore, it was Hanazar's Idolwer, it was a moral contrast.
Because I think if a victim comes out against Usher, it'll show how egregious this shit is. Because if he can be a predator, then anybody can be a predator.
Can't smile in your face the whole time.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, people look at Usher, they don't see that. They're not seeing the victim. They're not seeing that boy that got rushed to the hospital. They're not seeing what the intentions was in his heart when he took Justin Bieber there.
Oh.
Let's be honest. He took Justin Bieber there. Diddy had been trying to get to Bieber for a minute. And his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that.
Joe's sadness became the centerpiece of a cultural reckoning. Entertainment reporters replayed his breakdown in primetime segments. Psychologists were interviewed about the long-term effects of childhood fame. Youth advocacy groups cited Joe's words in fundraising campaigns, telling donors, "If someone like Joe Rogan can feel this deeply, we should all care this much." But the weight of carrying that sadness wasn't easy for Joe. Off-air, he admitted to friends that the episode had drained him more than anything else he'd ever recorded. "It's different when you're angry," he told one confidant. "Anger keeps you moving, sadness just stays with you." Yet even in his exhaustion, he knew the sadness had struck a chord that Outrage alone never could, so he leaned into it. On his next episode, Joe didn't hide how much he was still struggling. He told his audience plainly, "I'm still sad. I can't stop thinking about that note, about that kid sitting in a hotel room at 15 begging for sleep while everyone else saw him as a gold mine. It eats at me." Listeners didn't tune out. They leaned closer. They respected that Joe wasn't performing. He was grieving. The industry couldn't ignore it. Executives who once brushed off complaints found themselves facing hard questions. Talent agencies were asked on record whether they had policies for overnight mentorship stays. Music labels were pressed about how they handle temporary guardianship. Each time, an executive gave a vague answer. Rogan's emotional breakdown was replayed as a stark reminder of why vagueness was no longer acceptable. For Biebers fans, Rogan's sadness unlocked a new way of understanding their idol. They began looking back at old interviews, performances, and paparazzi shots not just as celebrity moments, but as snapshots of a boy under immense strain. The sadness in Rogan's voice had opened their eyes to the sadness behind Bieber's smile. And though Rogan never set out to make himself part of the story, he had become its moral anchor. Diddy was the villain, Bieber the victim, but Joe was the witness, the one who refused to look away. His sadness was proof that empathy still mattered, even in an industry built on spectacle. As weeks turned into months, Joe's grief hardened into resolve. He couldn't erase what Bieber went through, but he could make sure the world never forgot. He ended one episode by saying, almost to himself, "I don't ever want to feel this kind of sadness again, and if speaking up can stop it from happening to another kid, then I'll carry it as long as I have to."